Welcome, everyone. Come on in. We've got plenty of room. You all are getting parent points right now from your staff and faculty here, taking the time to worry about your students. And some students, you probably don't need this webinar. If you've logged in today, you're probably good, but we'll tell you anyway what we have in mind. We'll wait a few more moments, but since we only have a half an hour, we will get started shortly. Shall we do this? It will be recorded, so tell your friends if they missed these key moments up front. I want to welcome you all. Again, thank you for taking the time out on this day to really invest in your child's future, invest in your own future. We have a few students on the call, so we're delighted to have all of you here. My name is Cherry Wilkerson. I'm the Assistant Dean of Young Professional Programs, the Specialized Master's one-year programs at Owen, which is Vanderbilt's business school. And we serve recent graduates with our one-year Specialized Master's programs. I've been at Vanderbilt for 16 years and 10 years teaching undergraduate students and 6 years teaching graduate students, as well as helping them launch their amazing careers. So it's been a real pleasure for me. Let me introduce you to the rest of my team. Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Nichols. I am also at the Owen Graduate School with Cherry here in the Career Management Center. So I've been at Owen and at Vanderbilt for a little over 9 years. And for the past 5 or so years have been working as the career coach for a couple of our specialized master's programs, and want to echo what Cherry said. What a pleasure it is to help our students launch into their career. So thanks for being here tonight.
I'm Gary Kimball. I'm the director of the undergraduate business minor program. I teach finance to our undergraduates. I've been at Vanderbilt for 13 years. And I've worked with Cherry for a number of years, and as an aside, I'm a double door as well.
We have 5 points that we'd like to discuss with you. I would like to collect your questions as you go along. We've allowed some time at the end to answer those questions. You can press the Q&A box in the bottom of your Zoom screen, not the chat, but the Q&A box. And we have very capable people who will collect those and direct those questions to us at the end. So thank you for that. The issue is building a career. You have all this angst to get the right school for your child, get the right match. You spend tons of time and money doing that. But guess what? There's another step to go. Whatever your experience of getting your own job and launching your own career, I can tell you it's different now. It's in hyper speed, much more competitive, and it starts earlier and earlier and earlier. I want to tell you about an article in Wall Street Journal, a study done by Burning Side work about, it was on February 6, 2021, talking about the importance of getting the right job right out of the gate. Here's the quote: "Students who graduate into underemployment are 5 times more likely to remain stuck in mismatched jobs after 5 years." And there are other studies that show that effect lasts for up to 10 years. So that first career, that first job of your career, the first ladder your student gets on out of college is critical. It's no longer the case where you can, oh, well, I'll do this for a while and then I'll jump over into a serious career. That doesn't happen. it's too late. So you've got to start right away. But it doesn't happen automatically. It's going to be up to your student, up to you to help your student go through the process to find that right job. And that's what we're here to help you do. Some questions to ask, some techniques to follow to get your student, to get yourself launched on the right ladder here. So Gary.
Yes. I think one of the things that we really try and focus on is making sure that students get involved and get involved in productive activities that help them along this path. There's a finding your footing period when you enter college, but once the student feels comfortable with that, they've really got to test what resonates with them. It's okay not to know, but it's not okay to not be out there testing your ideas and engaging in different areas, trying to find that. For instance, engaging professors. One of the easier things I find with advising is when a younger student comes to see me. We've got a longer runway. We can spend time getting to know each other, find out what their passions are, where they think their skill sets lie. And it gives me time to reach out to industry professionals and others that they can connect with and start to develop their database, so to speak, as to what they may be interested in doing. Also exploring student clubs. We have lots of great organizations on campus that are set up and run by the students. I've served as an advisor for a number of clubs, and I'm always pleased to see how much of the energy comes from the students. If you think you like finance, join the finance club, or perhaps the investments club, or perhaps the real estate club. And if you feel some passion develop there, take a leading role. Perhaps you want to be on the pitch committee for the investments club, or you want to be on the finance development committee that works with other students to help them prepare. Lots of ways that students can get involved and take their energy to a really productive place. The important thing for students, in their involvement is finding opportunities to demonstrate their leadership. All employers are looking for leadership from the students. And what better way to tell an employer that you're passionate about what you're pursuing than to have shown that you have leadership in that area. It could be something as simple as taking the lead in a class project and being able to talk about that. It doesn't have to be a position like president of a club or whatever. Just find opportunities where you can demonstrate that you're getting out in front and that you're working with other people to lead them to a good outcome on whatever the project may be.
Thanks, Gary. So for a lot of the reasons that Gary talked about, the same applies to getting and staying connected. So really what I mean by that is networking. So doing this early and often, it's really one of the most important things that your student can be doing as they're going through the process of their undergraduate journey. So really thinking about these networking conversations as a way to build relationships with people and not use them as a transactional method to getting a job. So the more they start to get to know these people, learn about their careers, the more they will just start to inherently kind of talk that language. So what are some ways that those students can do this? How can they start networking? It's really just thinking about it as the foundation and starting to network with family and family friends first. Those are going to be the most forgiving audiences who will understand if your student doesn't know the difference between, investment banking and private wealth or whatever the topic may be. And then from there, after they start kind of learning about those networks and what family and family friends may do for their careers, moving into talking to their, upper students, so juniors and seniors. If your student is a junior or a senior, or if you're a junior or senior on the call, thinking about talking to the most recent grads from Vanderbilt. The alumni network is so strong with Vanderbilt, and so those people want to help And the reason we look at recent grads is, again, those audiences tend to be more forgiving and helpful and empathetic because they were just in this situation. So another really effective way to be thinking about building your network and figuring out like what you want to do and who to talk to is to look for those people on LinkedIn. Think about a job that you're really interested in. Look for someone who does that job in LinkedIn. And then you're able to see, this is very tactical advice, but seeing how did that person get there? How many internships did they do? What internships did they do? And that will help really kind of guide your process from there. And then I have a lot of questions from students saying like, how do I even know who to look for? That's okay if you don't know that yet. That's why you want to just talk to people in a variety of industries and a variety of functions. And you can start really narrowing down what you're interested in by talking to people and taking out things that you don't want to do. And then that helps you narrow the focus and connect with people who are doing the things you want to do or that your student wants to do. And then as you begin to build this network, maintaining it as your student begins to build it, maintain it. That's the most important part. We don't want to just have like the one and done networking conversation. Obviously, you can't maintain this breadth of 200 and 300 and 400 connections, but you can find the strong connections that worked really well and keep them updated on your status. I can't tell you how many alumni will say like, I never heard back from the student. What happened to them? So updating those strong connections when you do get an internship and you land somewhere, or news about Vanderbilt, or you see news in the paper in the Wall Street Journal about their company. And then from there, some of the tried and true things that I always advise my students to do pre-COVID, and hopefully we're coming to the point of doing this in a post-COVID world, is trying for in-person coffee chats. These types of activities are so important, getting in front of people. And one of the other things that is really helpful as you're engaging in this networking process is like even taking a trip to a city that you're interested in going. So if you are someone who wants to be a consultant in Atlanta, or your student may want to do that later on, they need to drive down to Atlanta on a Friday and meet with consultants in person. So those are some, really tactical ways to get and stay connected. And doing that will help you be even more or differentiated in the job search and be a big difference maker.
Another thing that we focus on is making sure that the students develop the appropriate professional skills. I tend to refer to it as focusing on the toolkit. And I think the reality for students at Vanderbilt, they're immersed in the liberal education, but there are lots of opportunities for them to engage both in class and outside of class with faculty and others to develop these skills. If a student thinks they want to be a consultant, are they taking the strategy class? Are they working outside of class to study the case in point book, which is referred to quite often in the interview process as being great preparation? We have many students who want to be bankers. Are they developing their Excel skills in classes like the one I teach? Are they taking a self-study course like Breaking into Wall Street, where they can practice this, in the summer? There's potential employers are really impressed with students who take some of their discretionary time to make themselves better in the field that they claim that they want to pursue. And these professional skills can be developed in a variety of ways. I mentioned student organizations earlier. We have a number of organizations that specifically work on these skills for a particular industry. We have business fraternities that students can be a part of that practice networking, interviewing skills. And I find that a lot of Vanderbilt students find great value in working with small groups of peers. They're like mini study groups, and they'll focus on a particular aspect that's timely during recruiting season and really work with those students to develop those skills. I think the question for students is, are you engaging the challenge to develop these skills? You're going to learn how to think critically in your time at Vanderbilt, and that's really a timeless skill that you're going to have. But make sure that you're taking classes where you have the opportunity to present to groups, both of your peers and others. and you can practice presentation skills on one-on-one, and ways that you can communicate both written and otherwise to develop those skills as well. Again, I mentioned earlier, and I want to emphasize it again, the opportunity to work with students early in their collegiate career really pays off for them, because we can help direct them to these different resources that they have. And I encourage them to come see us.
Thanks, Gary. So, we're going to talk about discovering your passion, and Gary gave us a lot of really good tips on just even starting to narrow in on what that could be. I know that can have a cliche. What does that mean as far as my career, and your student may be 20, 21 years old? Given that, though, one of the most consistent pieces of feedback I receive from employers that recruit our students is that they select the candidate that displayed the most passion and enthusiasm for the role. So sometimes I have students that may think that, getting excited about this interview is like, it's not cool, right? But it actually is really cool. The employer wants to see that the student is excited. So most candidates that are going to be interviewing for these types of roles, especially Vanderbilt students, are going to be, smart and prepared for the interview. But the difference maker is being excited about the job and the opportunity. And they don't have to show this the whole time or be overly bubbly or smiley, but they do have to be knowledgeable and enthusiastic to display their passion. So you might be thinking, how does that have to do with discovering your passion? It doesn't exactly, but we want to first do that, right? So how do we figure this out? And a lot of the things we've already talked about apply to that, but I would say the most consistent tips I would give in this realm is that they have to get the experience first. And a lot of times that does come from an internship, which is really a competitive process when you think about it only as being an on-campus interviewing experience. However, I would love for you to help your student broaden their horizon and think about other ways to get an internship. And some of that comes from that networking that we talked about earlier, reaching out to smaller firms, not focusing on, the top Forbes top 100 list for their internships, really diversifying the types of companies they're looking at to get those internship experiences. And again, Gary talked about the classwork, class projects, volunteering to help with something for a nonprofit, to do, an Excel spreadsheet for them. Any way that your student can get this experience on their resume and in their toolkit is going to help them figure out what they do and don't like. So that relevant experience is so important. Other than that, simple things like just staying current on industry events, reading the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, books about the topic. I advise all of my students to follow companies they're interested on social media, all of this, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and figuring out what their companies they're interested in are talking about, or industry leaders on social media. And then those other pieces we already talked about, networking with those young alumni. The more the student does that, the more they're going to sound like they're already in this job. They're already a part of this network. And doing those things will help figure out what is their passion, what are they interested in, and that will continue to show through in the recruiting process.
And our fifth point is get started now. If you have kids who are still in high school, they should get started too. We have numerous stories of students who all their life they wanted to be a doctor until they took organic chemistry, or until they actually interned at a doctor's office over the summer and they pivot into something else. That's okay. Students are going to change their minds. The key is to do it quickly. Know what your career, what's your interest, what's your passion, what stimulates you, who has a job you want. Find out about it and pursue that path. And if you figure out, hey, that's not for me, pivot and do something else. It's like rapid prototyping in the entrepreneurial realm, where you go full bore until you decide, no, that's not it. Then you go to do something else. But go full bore. That is the thing. And learn everything about it. Gary and Megan have taught you, or giving you some ideas on how to do that. but just get there. Be pursuing something. Son, daughter, what are you pursuing right now? Like, wonderful. Tell me who's in that field. What have you done? Have you talked to them, etc. Give them a little nudge to get started there. Don't let it be vague. It's okay to be vague when you're 5 years old and want to be a firefighter. It's not okay to be vague when you hit college and you're looking at internships and going forward. Those are essential. You need something productive every summer. My little parting advice too, I know we probably have people whose students are engineering students, who are in HOD, who are in music and plan to go into the medical field. I would, regardless of what field you're going into, you're going to be in a business, whether it's a hospital or something else. So I would encourage you, I can say this now, Gary can't, but I can, get a business minor. Encourage your child to get a business minor, to sort of get the language of business, see what's out there. There's more than 5 careers in the world. That business minor will help unlock a lot of those doors and give you a perspective on that. Strongly encourage you to do that. Let's see, we are moving into the Q&A period. So please ask some questions of us, and we look forward to answering those.
Carrie, we have a lot of great questions coming in for our Q&A, and we'll try to get to most of them. And if we don't, we'll be sure to follow up on Friday with a recording of the webinar. And also we'll be responding individually to those questions as well. So our first question is for Gary, and it's about clubs. And what advice do you have for students that have applied to clubs but haven't yet had the opportunity to be accepted into a club? It seems like some of the applications to the clubs require many essays, and it's quite difficult to get into clubs. What advice do you have for students in getting involved at Vanderbilt and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, first I would say I'm proud of the students for pursuing it. There are a few clubs that you have to be accepted into. Most clubs are not that way, that you can join, and then there may be some selectivity on committees and leadership. But I think, early on, if a student has an interest in a particular club, I'll sound like a broken record tonight, but I would advise them to seek out a faculty member who has some knowledge in that area. For instance, and then I mentioned earlier, my area is finance. If a student has an area or has an interest in finance, come see me. I've been the faculty advisor for a long time. I've worked with them to set up a number of their programs. Just a quick 5 or 10 minute conversation, it could be by Zoom, to give them more of the landscape for a particular club, I think would increase the chances, that they're going to engage fully, but secondly, that they're going to find value there and in places that they might not have looked otherwise.
Thank you. The next question is for Cherry, and it's in regards to graduate school. And when is the best time to apply? But also, is it okay to pursue both a job after graduation and graduate school? And how can you help them along the way?
Absolutely. I mean, you coming out of school, you want to keep your options open. And frankly, we have master's programs in marketing and accounting and finance. If you can get a great finance job or a great marketing job, don't go to graduate school. But if you don't feel like you could on your own, what you've done so far, take another bite at the apple. Come and let Megan coach you on how to get the job of your choice. The employment reports are pretty startling from our 3 programs that we have. But if you get a great job, you don't need graduate school. We have students, though, who do have a good job, but feel like they need more skills related to their particular area. I'm thinking of Jasmine, Megan, who just wants to come in and get all that skill set. So when she does get on she's an investment banker, when she gets on the desk, she will have a lot more confidence in the toolkit she's bringing. Others just need to come from smaller schools or didn't know they wanted to get into marketing until late. And so they come to graduate school to get a new credential and access to the job they want ultimately.
Next, I have a question for Megan. There's an awful lot of chatter about what to do this summer, how to get experience. And the question, though, is which type of real life experiences do employers really like to see on a recent college graduate's resume? And do you see something that continuously rises to the top?
Thanks, Heather. So I think that's a little complicated just given what the student maybe wants to go into. So I do know that the employer in general is going to look for something more specific to what the person is applying to. Cherry mentioned a former student, Jasmine, who went into investment banking, and her, targeted internships were anything, with finance at the beginning, right? So sophomore summer, some sort of general finance. I think she, volunteered to work for a venture capital firm, those sorts of things. And then as you move closer to that full-time, you can get to a bit more specific. In terms of the skills, I think, or things that might rise to the top, I think thinking about some of the stuff Gary mentioned, where can you get these hard skills? So the Excel skills or the PowerPoint skills, or being able to do really solid research, meeting with clients or kind of being client facing, if that's something you're interested in. Those are all things employers are going to look for. But then when we think about the soft skills, one of the biggest pieces of feedback employers give is that sometimes students are not able to deal with ambiguous situations, which we just, tend to see in a younger population. They kind of want all the details. So if a student can express that their internship experience, they had to navigate things without knowing all of the details, those skill sets and the critical thinking skill sets are going to be really valuable, no matter what the job is when you're in the interview process for employers. So hopefully that answers the question. And I'm happy to talk more about internships if we need to.
Great, thank you. And this question is probably any one of you can answer it. It's the question's about tapping into the alumni network at Vanderbilt and the best ways to go about doing that. And a few of the parents have commented it's been a little bit more challenging to reach out to employers and even alumni given the COVID restrictions. So any advice there would be really great.
So Heather, you were saying, oh, sorry, go ahead, Gary.
No, go, please.
I think Heather, you were saying as far as internships go and then connecting with alumni.
Right, the specific question was how to connect with alumni.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways. I think targeting people on LinkedIn is the best way to do that. Finding out who the people are it's a little known trick. I've found that you can search for Vanderbilt University on LinkedIn, and then below that you can click on alumni, and then you'll see all of the Vanderbilt alumni, and you're able to filter down to really narrow ways. So you can filter what city those alumni are in, what company they work for. And then from there, you're able to find people at all different levels. My next piece of advice for connecting with those same alumni would be to figure out what their email address is. So really a lot of the things that I'm advising is like, you're getting really crafty. So how do you find out what their email is? There's a few different email websites that you really can just enter in the name of the person, and then they kind of generate what that email is. I also tell my students to guess at those email addresses sometimes as well. But that's really, emailing the alumni and figuring out who they are. I know we have some alumni databases internally at Vanderbilt, so I'm not sure if VU Connect is still a resource. Our team that have their cameras turned off could probably tell us that. But really, that's the best way to start with the email. And then if you can't reach them via email, send them a message on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just add to that, Megan. Some students have a big network, the family, friends that they come into Vanderbilt with. Others have absolutely none. And if you are in that camp, you do have the Vanderbilt network, and y'all share a common experience. So don't feel like you don't have a network. You're here. You have a big, powerful network. You just have to be bold enough to use it and bold enough to ask for some help in how to do that. We're happy to help out on that.
I would add to that, Cherry, that some of the best successes that I see from students are the ones who who will start before they need the internship. They will reach out to young alumni and they don't have an ask other than, tell me about what you do. I'm interested in it. Can you tell me about the industry and your particular job? One thing about Vanderbilt alums, they love to talk about what they do. And lots of times in the process of that conversation, where there's not a specific ask, the alumni will actually offer to either A, introduce the student to more alums, or B, tell them about opportunities that are going to be coming up at that particular company. But it takes some runway to develop that, because you've got to let that develop over time. But it's a really effective way to approach developing the network and finding out what opportunities are out there.
Great. And I have another question probably for you, Gary, is what is the best way to find a mentor on campus? Again, it's been a little bit more challenging now that we're, still in the COVID restrictions. So what advice do you have for students?
Yeah, COVID has been a challenge. It's been an interesting dynamic in that we've actually had access to more people off campus with the advent of Zoom being a tool that we have, where we can get an hour of an executive's time, whereas previously we were asking for a day. So there's actually some upside to that. But I think in terms of a mentor, there's a couple of levels. I think younger students should absolutely look for some of the older students to mentor them. The older students are going to have the experience of going through the internship process as well as the full-time, and they're a wealth of knowledge, and the student's going to be able to see themselves in those older students. They should certainly talk to the business minor faculty, many of whom have worked in industries that the students are interested in, and they can also connect them with some of the young alums, connect them with the Owen programs that can be an option as well. The big thing is to reach out to, I think there's an older population on campus, both in terms of students and in terms of faculty, that are there and ready to help. And the sooner they do it, the better.
Great, thank you. And I think our last question will wrap up with Megan. And the question is about recruiters. And I know, again, due to COVID restrictions, that has not been allowed on campus. What do you foresee as a trend moving forward for the fall semester? And anything else you have to share as far as that changing?
Sure. Yes. So that's right. All of the recruiting across Vanderbilt was virtual this year. I see that the hope is that many employers would like to return to campus. However, the administration has not shared that with us just yet, but I think we're getting like tidbits here and there that we feel more confident that might be a reality next year. And I think that employers likely, I do think we'll still see this virtual movement for some processes, but I think employers really do want to see students in person. And believe it or not, I saw a lot of employers flying students in for interviews this year and actually giving them rapid COVID tests and then allowing them to go do the interview with the negative test result. So I think that kind of motivation shows that employers want that in-person activity. And so that will come back. I hope. My expectation is that we'll hopefully see that trend, that we come back to in-person events. And maybe it means that if they can't come to campus, they plan, some off-campus activities where students are invited to a dinner or something along those lines.
Great. And for those that we didn't get a chance to answer your question, again, we'll follow up with you hopefully this week. And Cherry, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I do. I want to say, see that email address there, career launchers, that will, our capable staff will funnel that to one of the three of us. So you're not sending an email to an unattended mailbox. And we'd love to connect with you. We are all in this profession because we love helping students launch into the real world. That's where we get our leverage, our employment. So I'd love to talk to your student. All of us would. I hope you've gotten that sense from us today. Thank you for taking time and hanging in there to get your tips. We've hopefully given you lots of good ideas to go back and talk with your student about. If you find that they listen to us better than you, maybe send them our way. We will repeat them, those same type ideas to them. But thank you. I hope you all have a good evening. And thank you to our staff and faculty for making this happen.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.